You're listening to the Our Erie podcast with DaVona Pacley,
Marty Nwachukwu,
and Lydia Laythe.
We're here to highlight community voices and bring new perspectives to the table.
We are unpacking Erie's and America's baggage.
We're speaking truth to power.
Take a seat.
Okay, so here we are. Our makeup of the Our Erie team looks a little different right now because Marty is who knows where, we suspect, on a lover's getaway. Just kidding. She's busy. She works a ton, so she's doing like 1,000 things. But so she cannot be with us, but we have DaVona and her lovely partner, Angel.
In the building.
Thank you for having me, guys.
You're so welcome.
Ladies, people.
We're so excited. So this is awesome.
It is. So let me start. Let me do this. Let you chill, Lydia. You sit back because I feel like you always starting this off. You know what I'm saying? So you relax. You sit back. Yeah, you can. We're drinking our beers. Okay. Yes, it's 5:17. Okay. It's been a long day of work, and you're back at work from week vacation.
Yeah, I had a week off. So I've been doing a lot of talks on self-care and stuff, and then I realized that I was not self-caring. So I took a week off of work and did literally nothing. I woke up at 1 p.m. every day and went to sleep at 2 a.m. and ate junk. It was wonderful. It was amazing.
Having a break.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. Well, we're on this episode today, y'all, because we're just really shooting the breeze. And I really wanted us to kind of have a conversation just about the things that we're doing. This is real laid back today. But I kind of wanted to share an experience I had this weekend. Mm-hmm. And it was the best experience that I had. And it was pole dancing. And actually, I wasn't dancing. It was more so just pole workouts, being able to if anybody knows what pole dancing or pole workouts are, it's a pole that's from the wall into the floor. And I found out that the pole spins around, which is so super cool. Did not know that. I thought the pole just stuck in the floor and it didn't move. So that was interesting. That was new. So y'all have any questions about that? Because I want to just dive in with it.
Okay, I saw the video you posted on Facebook where you were doing it and it looked super cool, but also I have no muscle strength at all in any part of my body, but especially not my upper body, which it seemed like it was you were using your arms anyway. But then you fell on the ground and it looked like you hit your butt pretty hard. Did it hurt to fall? Were you falling all the time? How did that work?
Oh, it did not. And the thing is, I thought I was supposed to have more muscle strength, and I thought it was supposed to be more. I don't know. I really thought that I needed to have this muscle, but it's not. It's more so about just technique and where to put your hands and your arms on the pole. So for me, it was a whole different perspective. I thought I needed to have that type of strength. You do obviously want to, your arms, obviously you'll need your arms and you'll need your muscles, but it was not, you have to, it's something you have to experience in order to even you know what I'm saying? Even I think about it was just something that more so for me when I did it, it didn't hurt until after the next day. I'm sore, my arms are sore and whatnot, but it was not anything that, even when I fell, it didn't hurt. It really didn't hurt. The more so for me, it was the pole workouts, it was kind of dismantling that idea that it was I don't even know how to say this. It was promiscuous, or I don't even know if that's the right word to use, but I feel what it made me really realize was I have not tapped into my femininity as much as I thought I have. It really put me in a different space of I want to do this more often to tap into that feminine part of myself of being able to use my body and be graceful and, be fluid. And I think that's something that for me, I really, really realized I want to do that again so I can do that more. But yeah, it was a cool experience.
I had a question. I actually did have a question because I know exactly what you just asked, what you just answered is what I was going to ask. How did you go about not only just doing the class, but sharing the class, knowing kind of the stigma behind it? Did you feel some type of way about putting those videos online?
Oh my God.
And you're upside down on a pole swinging around and the idea behind it? How did that?
That's wild that you say that, because I literally was thinking, oh my God, like, what are my like family? What are like my parents gonna say, right? Like I still think about that, right? And I'm like, DaVona, it's a what?
Not what her wife was gonna say. I want to
not
point that out.
That's true. Like, you're like, well, because in art, we're very free flowing. Like, you don't control, like, you know what I'm saying?
And I
like,
literally didn't.
Yeah, you did, and I didn't think about that. It's crazy. I didn't even think about that, but. No, like I was more so, because it's, I grew up to be modest, right? I grew up in to be modest or to not like, show skin, and for me, when I put that video, I was like, fuck it. Like I'm putting this video out there because it's a workout, right? And you have to be like with clothes, like you actually can't, it's not good to wear pants doing it. And it wasn't like, you have to actually like, you do have to show some skin. So for me, you're right. Like I would say I did struggle. Like, do I want to put this on social media? But then after I saw one of the friends that I went with, I was like, you know what? She did it, and she inspired me, like, share your experience. Like, don't feel, some type of way. I just shared it. I was like, I don't even care at this point, because I think that more of us need to be comfortable with our bodies, and we need to be comfortable with, stepping out of our comfort zones and just, it's my life. And I think that's something that I still like am shifting, for myself. So that's a good question, because I literally thought about that. I'm like, do I really want to put this? Like my butt cheeks were out, like, so it was like, do I want to put this on social media? But it was because I worked out. I did a workout. Like it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
And even if it was me dancing or whatnot, I feel like that still would have been okay. Because I think it's okay. It's okay for us to do that. It's okay for us to enjoy our bodies and really see how our bodies flow, and really like, I don't know, it's something that I think that more people should do. And I was going to say women, but more people, because men, women, all different types of people do those classes. And so that's something that I really encourage people to do, is just step out of their comfort zone and try it, because it's not, it's
the stigma of dancers, or the less appropriate word of strippers. It's that type of concept of what makes a woman a good woman or a worthy woman. It's like, even if you were to decide, I'm going to go strip on this dance pole right now,
right?
Like, that doesn't necessarily change the type of woman you are. So I think that whole stigma is wrapped up even in a simple class, rather than it being the full-blown action. It's like,
right. Like, would I have done that class? I asked myself that. I was like, would I have done this class if I was like younger? Like, I don't know. Like, would I have done this class with my, with the DaVona that was like in her younger 20s? I probably still would have actually. I probably still would have. I was going to say, I probably would have. I don't think I would have posted it, but I would have done it.
That's a good point. Well, and I think you tap into something we talked about, I think it was either last week or the week before, about like radical honesty and authenticity, that whether we're talking about politically, like just speaking truth, and like unapologetically speaking truth, even if it makes people feel uncomfortable, as long as we're not like disrespecting someone's basic human dignity, like we're going to speak truth to it. And I think similarly, you're talking about like, so that's like political, but then like personal, like within our bodies, they're like, we get so far removed from like just bodily authenticity, bodily honesty, and just being, this is my body. I exist in this body, whether you like it or not. Like, here is who I am. And I think that ties into not only what we've been talking about as far as like gender norms and expectations and attitudes around sex and sexuality, but also around like gender identity and sexual orientation, and like, this is my body and this is who I am, and like unapologetically, here I am, whether you like it or not, And so I think we could take this in so many different directions, but like that underlying message of like, here's who I am, here's the message I have to tell. Like, you can be uncomfortable with it, but like, that's your discomfort to unpack. That's not something you need to like project onto me. And I think, well, you're modeling it for us, DaVona. Like that, it's powerful.
I think about it like that.
You say, like, you talk about taking this class as if it's like no big deal, but for so many people, for so many different reasons, like even walking through, even considering it, right? Some people hear that and are going to be like, wait, no way. And it still doesn't have to be for everyone, but like, to even have the space to figure out what's authentically something you want to do versus something that society has told you shouldn't do.
That's wild
to explore, for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't really look at it like that. Like, you're taking a step of, Like, I didn't look at it. I just think that in life, like, we should always be comfortable with, I don't know. I like to take risks. That just might be a little bit like, I like taking risks in certain areas. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I'm scary. So it depends. Like, but I do like to take risks. I do like to step out of my comfort zone and try new things. And, I think that it's important to do that because you don't know your limits. You don't know like what you are capable of if you don't, and I think for me, that's what I wanted to try. Like, my friend Andre, actually, who did our logo before, he was the one that does the classes. And he's the only Black male that does these classes. And so like, even that, like for me, I was like, oh my gosh, like you do pole? Like, and it was, when I learned that he did that, I'm like, I want to do that. And it took me a year, to even actually like go and do the class. But when I went, I was grateful. And I was like, I'm about to start doing this more often because I don't like the gym. But I do like doing classes. And so you're right though. Like I didn't think about it like that. Like a lot of people would be uncomfortable to do something. And I didn't think about it like that. That makes me reflect now.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this conversation, naturally segues into something we were talking about earlier, as far as some legislation in Pennsylvania that is threatening to ban trans students from participating in sports or in athletics and on the teams that they identify with. And again, talking about like this radical authenticity, radical honesty, and people, it's almost like people misidentifying the source of their discomfort. Like, so the legislators and all these people that are up in arms about this are like pointing at the trans kids and saying like, you are making us uncomfortable. You are the source of this problem. You need to change. You need to not be part of this, whatever, right? And that's where the legislation comes in. But truly, like at the end of the day, the discomfort's coming from inside those legislators, inside those people that have discomfort around trans folks and things that they don't understand, which probably also has to deal with like their discomfort about their own gender identity and like, how masculine am I if I can't be a man? And if anyone can be a man, then what does that mean about my masculinity? And like that threatens their, it's just bizarre how insecure some people can be and how they project it out to everyone else and make it all of our problems to deal with when like, this is like work they need to do in therapy.
Yes. And it's like crazy because at this point, I'm just so tired of people telling people what to do with their damn bodies at this point. Like it really is. And I don't know, at this point, like, I don't know why, I think you just hit the nail on the head though with the fact that we're projecting our wants and needs or whatever, our insecurities onto other people. And for me, like, I don't understand how hard it is to just let people live and let people be themselves and let people grow into who they are. And I think when you tap into, now we're tapping into like kids. You know what I'm saying? And what they want to do with their lives and their bodies. And I understand adults wanting to make sure that they, kids are growing up to be, whatever. But I feel like at this point, leave kids alone. Like I let kids be in a space where they can grow and people to be in a space where they can grow and they can learn. I don't understand how hard it is to do that. Like, why do we have to control everything? And it's just starting to get on my nerves because I think that we have to create policies to keep people out of different, like, I just think it's bullshit. But
I think it's real bullshit because I think you said earlier, Lydia, like you hit the nail on the head when you said that all of the concerns with trans people are projections of cis white gender males. So you're concerned that someone's going to pretend to be a trans person and go into a bathroom and sexually assault someone. Well, then they're not trans then. They are cisgendered pretending to be trans. You're worried that someone will go through surgeries and all these things to play high school basketball. Well, they're not trans, though. They are cisgendered men pretending to be trans. And I think that when we put all these standards on, well, this person is trans, this person is not, this person, at the end of the day, what it boils down to is, like DaVona said, people want control. They don't want their kids to be in a space they can't control, that they don't feel comfortable explaining because of their own insecurities, because of their own issues. We were just watching this show called The Derricos, and it's this Black couple that has 14 children. 14, all natural birth, no IVF, 14. And the one thing that we loved about them is that everything they sat down and explained to their kids in a group. Like Black Lives Matter. They explain when one of their sisters had open heart surgery, things like that. And when you come across any of these issues that parents are fighting for their kids' safety, what it boils down to is you don't want to take the time and energy to sit down and explain that people are different in the world to your children.
That's what it feels like.
And you're uncomfortable. That's what it seems like to me. And it causes so much pain in the process, though, because, you know, when you're a queer child growing up in a household, you're not necessarily noticed as being queer until you identify yourself as such. So myself, growing up in a Black household, like, you do hear derogatory things about groups of people that you belong to. And you're not even at the point where you can cognitively say, I belong to this group, but you hear all of that and you take it all in. And I think it's the same thing with a lot of trans kids. Like, you can't say a kid doesn't know who they are at 5 years old and 6 years old, and then turn around and congratulate them on having a girlfriend or a boyfriend when they go to kindergarten. It just doesn't line up, right? So I don't know. I think that it's about control. And I think that the worst thing you can do is just put your hands on everything and try to control everything. Like, it just doesn't work that way, bro.
And I think, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And I was just going to say, I think that education is super important. I know this is another controversial topic where people are saying, well, you know, as far as LGBTQ plus education, that needs to be incorporated in school, all of it. It's all intersectional. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't understand how we're still having these conversations of, well, should we teach it in school or should we not? Yeah. Absolutely. If we teach human sexuality, I think a lot more kids would understand who they are and what they, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they had a safe space to kind of figure out who they were and who they are, we would make healthier, they would make healthier decisions and all those other things. I just think that we try to, like I said, control things and things that we really should be like giving kids like opportunities to grow and to learn. And I just, at this point, it needs to be incorporated in school. It needs to be everywhere. It doesn't need to be where it's like this small separate thing. Like, I don't know. It really irks me. I think that we need to educate, and we need to educate kids about different people and different lives. And it's not, I don't understand how hard that is, but that's just, again, I get it because of all the other factors we have. We have a lot of other factors why people don't want to have that in schools. So,
well, and gosh, I have so many thoughts. Two things that I want to say. But the first thing is, kids know how they feel from like the moment they're born. They know how they feel. I just watched this video the other day. I posted it to my Facebook about this 2-year-old that adjusted his behavior because he saw an adult get angry. And it's like, even as a toddler, kids know how to adjust so that they don't make someone angry. Even if why they're angry, even if they thought it was something good, they will not do it if they think it's going to make an adult angry. So that is like part of this. But Buster and I have said this 1,000 times about our son, but that like, he knows how he feels. He just doesn't have the vocabulary yet.
Yeah.
That's I think how it is for so many kids, whether we're talking about feelings or we're talking about experiences or we're talking about identities. Kids know who they are and how they feel and what they want. They just don't necessarily have the vocabulary for it yet. And if we started teaching kids the vocabulary for sexual health, for gender identities, for sexual orientations, for all these different things that contribute to who a full human being is, we would have healthier kids. We would have kids that are less depressed and suicidal. Like, think of a world in which kids actually had the words to say what they wanted, what they needed, and who they were, and how they weren't having their needs met. If we just gave them the vocabulary sooner than college, like, so many kids are left behind because we don't give them the words that they need. So that's one piece. The second piece that I was thinking about too, about like why people don't talk about this. So I just watched a documentary a while ago called Disclosure.
Oh my God, yes.
It's about trans representation in the media.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like, okay, I know I have like gaps in my awareness because of my privilege. Why? Oh, goodness gracious. It was so eye-opening. So the thing that stuck out to me the most was they had a portion where they had spliced together all the different scenes of trans representation in media currently, like pre kind of Orange is the New Black, where like there kind of was a turning point with Laverne Cox. But all representation was of trans people being abused or being murdered. And that was it. and scene after scene after scene, and seeing it all laid out before me, I was shocked because I had never considered how, and again, privilege, right? Like cisgender privilege, I had never considered how there was never, like the only representation you had was abuse or death. And so then you think about these families, if all they're seeing is media representation, they've never met a trans person, then all they're seeing is drugs, abuse, death. So then in some ways, they're not processing it properly, but like their fear is if you are trans, if you're exposed to trans people and you become trans, then you will be abused and die. So like, again, going back to education and awareness, showing people that like there are freaking amazing trans people that are doing amazing things. And so much, like, not every trans story ends in abuse and death, ever. Like, there are so many great success stories, and there can be so many more if we take the time, again, to like give the spotlight to them, to have the conversation, to encourage people to share their stories and be open to them.
Absolutely.
Yo, it's so funny you mentioned that documentary, because the one thing that stuck out to me is Ace Ventura is by far, it was one of my favorite comedies as a kid. And the scene where they find out that Lewis used to be a football player and he starts like throwing up like so. And I felt so bad watching it when I watched it on the documentary, but that used to be the funniest part to me. And it wasn't funny because I didn't realize it was hateful. You know what I mean? But then when I watched it the second time, I'm like, oh shit, like this is a little messed up to do to another human being. And then even the act of exposing her during that, it was like a lot. It was like, this is what I grew up on. And I probably internalized that because, to be honest, the first trans person, like when you said Laverne Cox, that was for me one of the first trans people that I saw and was like, oh, okay. So it's not death, drugs, and all these other things that go with it. So like you hit the nail right on the head with that, because I can't watch Ace Ventura anymore.
There's a lot of things that
and a lot of Black comedies. A lot of Black comedies really do exhibit fear, and then the response to that fear is violence to trans people. That is the appropriate response. And I'm not gonna coat the Black community, but what I will say is in Black comedies, the appropriate response to trans people is violence, because they hid something from you and they intentionally tried to lie to you. And I think it's like a real toxic masculinity
we made it a joke
into the scripts, but it is like a joke. It's like a joke that I'm going to beat this dude up because of whatever reason, you know, or beat this person up. So it's
right. It's horrifying to look at and think these are the messages that we were fed, that we all were fed, whether we're cisgender or transgender. We all were fed these messaging. And so I just want to say, like, to our listeners, like, we're here, we're learning, we're here to fight for you, to fight alongside you, to fight behind you. I don't know, like every side we will be there, because this is fucking bullshit.
You've been listening to the Our Erie podcast.
Community voices unpacking Erie's baggage and speaking truth to power.
You can continue the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Our Erie Series.
Funding provided by United Way of Erie and Ember+Forge.
Music produced by Light Shadow.
We appreciate you for listening to the Our Erie podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself.
Keep fighting the good fight.
Peace.